Welcome back to the Realty One Stop YouTube channel, and today I want to do something a little bit different and present a deal walkthrough where I break down all the details of my first real estate deal, buy and hold rental I bought in 2017, and I'm going to run through everything with the house, with the property, the things I learned, all the things I did with the renovation, all the challenges, and then at the end we'll go through all the numbers and the outcome of the deal. So again, this was a duplex that I bought in Deer Park, which is a suburb of Cincinnati, Ohio. It had a list price of $99,000, and it was a 2-bed, 1-bath on the bottom floor and a 1-bed, 1-bath on the top floor. Top-down duplex, has a driveway, and it had a very tiny little garage that was basically falling down in the back. It did have a front porch. The first floor can access. It has a back deck for each tenant. It has a fenced-in yard, and again, as I mentioned, it had a dilapidated garage that was torn down, and you'll see later another garage was built and added later. On this property, tenants pay the gas and electric in their own heat. I, as the landlord, I pay the water and trash. Now, with this property, I knew it was a problem house because I was actually a police officer in this town in Deer Park, Ohio at the time. So I had been to this property, I had made runs, I had made arrests, I had been inside both apartments, and I knew that it needed a lot of work. It had a ton of issues, both structurally and cosmetically. And I also knew that the current landlord was having a lot of problems with the tenants and was probably motivated to sell. So when I saw this hit the market, I was definitely interested, but I wasn't quite ready to pull the trigger on my first deal. And at the $99,000 list price, given the condition I knew it was in, I knew it was a little overpriced. So I watched it sit on the market for a few months. I continued saving money, educating myself in real estate. And a few months after I had basically decided I was ready to make a move, made an offer, and I was able to get it under contract. So here on the next slide, there are pictures of the first floor, and you can see that it was kind of hideous inside, had some beat up appliances, had this really nasty green paneling. I did not at the time know to take pictures before I touched it because it was actually full of like trash and property. It had really nasty carpet with pet stains and things like that. So some of these pictures are as the renovations were already in progress, but you can see here I tore out all the carpet, cleaned all the trash out of the house, and started my first renovation on my first rental property here. These are some of the bedroom photos. Again, didn't take a picture until I started tearing all the carpet and tack strips out. This was in pretty nasty condition. Again, pet stains, pet odors. Some of the biggest challenges with this deal in particular were the structural issues. So after I purchased it, I found out that there was significant termite damage. So I ended up having to replace several of the joists on from the basement to the first floor that were termite damaged. Some were savable, and I was able to sister on, meaning adding another joist side by side. Some of them had to be completely removed and replaced. But the termites were so bad in this property, still to this day, the worst termite damage I've ever seen, that about half of this hardwood you see here on these outside walls were completely rotted through with termites. I mean, literally, if you would have jumped up and down on it, you would have fallen through the floor. Because in these old houses, this hardwood is actually laid right over top of the joist. So you'll see in some of the pictures later, I had to remove that and patch it in. Okay. Again, this was my first rental property. I didn't know exactly what I was doing. I was definitely kind of learning as I went. I did have some DIY construction experience from working on my own personal residence, but I definitely did not have the skill sets to do all this by myself. So this was also my first experience in hiring contractors and subcontractors, and it didn't go well. And obviously, I'm going to talk more about that. This was the upstairs apartment. This apartment had the worst cigarette smoke damage I'd ever seen to this day. Literally thick runs of nicotine on the walls from nicotine buildup. This guy had lived here like 25 years and smoked like probably a pack or two a day inside. So this apartment was disgusting. It was literally thick with nicotine stains and smells. And you can see some really old, nasty fixtures here in the bathroom. There was mold and mildew buildup. This was the little kitchenette upstairs here. It actually is a full kitchen. Little closet here at the top of the steps. This is part of the living room after I took out the carpet. And this was the laundry closet off of the bathroom as well. There's like a little Harry Potter door you had to like crawl through to get in there. It was a really odd setup. So here's some of the after photos. So as you can tell, I was able to keep the paneling. It was actually in good shape. It was actually a really nice thick paneling, but I did paint it modern colors. I painted all the cabinets, replaced the hardware, new countertops, backsplash, blinds. I replaced the ceiling tiles because, again, they were really heavily stained with cigarette and marijuana odor. So the cabinets were in good shape. They were older, but they were solid wood cabinets. So again, new hardware. I painted them. They were basically good as new. Cleaned them out really good. Kept the tile here. It was in pretty good shape. Did some electrical work. This house had a lot of problems. There was plumbing issues. There was electrical issues. I did hire contractors to help me with some of that. But mainly, I would say 75% of this project was cosmetic. So what we ended up doing with the living room hardwood, as I mentioned before, there was significant termite damage in this house. Again, the worst I've ever seen after selling hundreds of houses and buying dozens of houses as an investor now. This was the worst termite damage I've ever seen. Happened to be my first deal. So what we did, one of my contractors, one of my guys who did hardwood, actually had a great idea. We took up all of the salvageable wood from this living room, if you remember back a few slides ago, and we patched that into the original hardwood in all the rooms that had termite damage. So there was some upstairs that was damaged, and then both of the bedrooms on the first floor were damaged. We were able to use this reclaimed wood and basically patch in to match the 120-year-old or 100-year-old oak floor that existed when I bought the house. So after we had removed all the hardwood, then we had to inlay this new hardwood into the living room. So this is actually a pine. This is modern hardwood, much softer, not nearly as durable. The stuff that we removed and then reinstalled was a really strong hardwood, like hard hardwood that was oak. So it's a lot better floor. But turned out really nice. Painted all the walls. Again, did some electrical. I think they had these little tile panels in here. I think we just painted over them. Bathroom was actually relatively updated. Didn't have to do much in here. Had a new shower insert. So as you can see here, if you look closely, this is the new pine and this is the old oak. So these are wider planks. These are smaller planks. Again, this is a much better hardwood, but we didn't have enough of it to reuse it. So this here was patched in, and you can actually kind of tell here a little bit on the staining, this darker stain. Of course, it was all refinished to match, but this here is actually patched in where the termites had eaten completely through the hardwood. Now to the upstairs. Here, I think we patched in as well. You can kind of see a little difference in the grain patterns. This here was where the previous owners had taken a wall out. You can kind of see the little difference where we had to patch the hardwood. Added in new doors here. Again, painted everything to cover up all that significant smoke damage. This wall was opened up, so we put in a LVL header in here. And if you remember that old little small kitchenette paneling that looked really gross, so we opened that up, made it feel a lot bigger. Again, same thing. I was able to reuse these cabinets, paint them, new hardware, put some shelves in, new countertop, backsplash. And as for this project, out of all the projects I've done, this was definitely the one I did the most work. I probably did like half of the work on this house because at the time I was a new investor. I just didn't have the capital to pay somebody to do everything. So I used my time. I used a little bit of a renovation experience I did have at the time, and I went ahead and renovated this property again, about half myself and half by hiring contractors. More pictures of the living room. This was that one where you saw that laminate tile, and if you remember from the beginning. And what's cool about this house is there's actually some nice features. This has a skylight that was nice. It wasn't leaking, so we didn't take it out. Nice skylight in the above the living room. And this is one of my favorite things to this day. One of the coolest apartments I have. There was a really nice cedar finish that was there. So this was just clean to get some of the cigarette staining off. And again, skylights. So, for a one-bedroom apartment, this is really nice. Redid the closet in here. Nice walk-in closet. This is a Cape Cod style house, so you got these cove ceilings here. If you remember that laundry closet, that was a door I added because instead of having to crawl through the bathroom in a little Harry Potter closet, I put in a full-size door, made it a lot more accessible to get full-size laundry into that closet. Completely gutted, of course, the bathroom. If you remember the really nasty bathroom, all new tile, block window, venting, full-size laundry in that laundry closet. Where that little Harry Potter door was right here, we added some shelves, nice little feature. Redid all the hardwood steps. I had a really good hardwood guy do that. That was that closet, if you recall. Just fixed the drywall, put some new laminate floor down. And, again, this was my first renovation. So I did things here probably cheaper. Well, definitely cheaper than I would today. A little bit lower in finishes. I had to do the laminate here again just because of the door clearance. We didn't have the height to tile. I would have probably tiled this. But, fast forward 6 years, the renovations I do now are much nicer than what I did on my first project. So that was all in 2017. Fast forward to 2019, I was able to tear down the old garage, and we stick built a brand new 24 by 24 garage and this ramp to get down to the existing driveway. So this garage ended up being massive. I don't think I took photos after it was totally done, but here's some progress pictures. And then we were able to separately rent that out to tenants. So the tenants at the house at the time did not want it and weren't willing to pay extra money for the garage rent. So I was able to rent them separately to residential tenants. And they use this for storage. We ended up building a double plywood wall here. So it's nice and secure from both sides. So here was the initial outcome back in 2017. Again, I was able to negotiate it down for $89,000. It set on market. It had a lot of problems. I knew nobody would really want this because it was a problem house. Put 25% down, $22,000. And again, that took me like 2 years to save that money. So, people who are watching this like, hey, I don't really have any capital. I want to get into real estate. It took me 2 full years just working my regular, W-2 job as a police officer to save the capital to buy my first deal. So if you're in that same spot, start saving now, get your personal finances right, and you can start slow just like I did. Renovation all in was about $40,000. Again, I probably did about half the work, so that would have probably been closer to like, $70,000 or $80,000 had I hired all of it out. It was a lot of work. Again, the termites were the biggest issue. I did. One thing I failed to mention was that sill plate on that same side of the house by the driveway where the hardwood was completely eaten by termites. The entire 1.5-inch sill plate was completely disintegrated from termite damage. So one of the contractors I hired actually lifted up that house like 2 inches, enough to put a new sill plate in, and we put in a temporary or load-bearing wall that we just left, but basically helped support the house to level it because it had literally dropped so much on the one side. That was a big part of the cost, that and the structural repairs with the joists that were all rotted. So the initial ARV, I refinanced it about a year after my initial rehab, and it appraised at $150,000. I was able to get $54,000 out in cash, and I put that into my second deal, which was a 6-unit. At the time, I was cash flowing about $400 a month or $4,800 a year, and after all my initial renovation and down payment, I had about $8,000 left in the deal. So obviously, a 60% return on investment is great. Anybody would probably take those numbers. So for that to be my first deal, I did really well, and here are the outcomes 5 years later. I'm renting the bottom for $1,120 a month. Top is $760 a month. The garage, I get $160 per side. Like I said, I separated it, so that's $320 a month. All in, $2,200 per month. And my expenses are about $1,500 a month. That's my CapEx reserve, maintenance, my vacancy, utilities, and taxes that I pay. And right now I'm netting about $700 a month in cash flow, or $8,400 per year. Current value, if I had it appraised today based on the comps, again, I'm an agent, so I look at this stuff all the time. Current value is probably $225 or so. And if you do the math based on the $133 that I owe, and I'm sorry, I owe $92K on the mortgage, $225 on the value. So that leaves me at about a $133K equity position. I did the math on the cash flow from purchase until now, and it was about $36,000. And if you take, account for the $8,000 that I left in the deal, then, I'm sorry. So the total cash invested was $33,000. I had $8K from the initial renovations in 2017, and then I did pay cash to renovate that garage, which was $25,000. So all in, $35,000 out of pocket, $33,000 out of pocket. And again, with that garage, $25,000 in 2019, that would probably cost closer to like $35,000 or $40,000 to do today, between increasing cost of labor and lumber costs. Obviously, as we all know, has doubled or tripled in some places since 2019. So I was able to build that kind of before the cost of everything skyrocketed. But as you can see, just on my cash flow, $36,000, and I've only put $33,000 into it in the last 5 years. I've already got all my capital out, and it's continuing to cash flow. So I have an infinite return, which of course most people, again, would take any day of the week. I also probably have about $133,000 in equity, and my tax savings. I've saved probably tens of thousands of dollars in income tax over the last 5-6 years with just this single property through depreciation and the other tax strategies you can use as a real estate investor. So my lessons learned. I did learn a ton of lessons. Look for your unique advantage in your situation. Okay? As I mentioned, I was just a W-2 employee. I was a police officer, but that gave me an advantage in this niche market, in this small little suburb, because I knew the houses that were problems. I knew the houses that other people weren't going to want to buy. So look for your unique advantage. There's so many different things. If you get creative and you look at it, what are you good at? What can you do that no one else can do? And for me, being a cop, being in that town every day almost, and being there a big majority of my life, gave me an advantage to not only keep an eye on this property, but to know, again, which properties to go after. Do not pay contractors without verifying work. This is super important. On this first deal, I probably lost $3,000 to $4,000 by just literally paying my contractor every week. He's telling me what he's getting done. Of course, we had agreed upon prices. We even had a written contract. Well, things that he said he did, he didn't do. There are things that he did that weren't correct that I had to either go back and fix myself or pay someone else to do it again. So again, I lost probably $3,000 to $4,000. And I also learned the hard lesson where even if you have a written contract, it's very few times is it worth going to court to try to get money out of somebody if they take advantage of you. Because I talked to a lawyer and they said, this is going to cost you probably $10,000 to try to get your $3,000 back. And if he doesn't have the money to pay you, you're never going to see it anyway. So I learned a hard lesson that, contracts are only as good as the paper they're written on. Hire out work when and if you can, and pick and choose what you want to do yourself. So on this house, the structural things that I didn't feel comfortable at the time doing, I hired out. All the drywall, I hired out because I learned quickly that even if I could do drywall really well, it takes so much time for me then when I don't do it every day. So hire a professional, hire someone who does it every day. It's probably going to save you time and money. Make your product nicer than the competition. So even though this wasn't my best work and my best project, compared to the market, and that was something I was studying at the time, what are the comps that I'm up against as a rental, this house is much nicer than most of the houses in Deer Park on the rental level. So now when tenants move out and I have to go re-rent it, I never have a problem getting great tenants in my properties because I make them nicer than the competition. Find the right deal, but don't get stuck in analysis. So this was something I was guilty of, as I mentioned in the beginning. This took me almost 2 years. From the time I decided I was going to start buying rental property until I actually closed was almost 2 years because I was hyper-focused on a niche market. And this is also what I talk about in number 6. Don't be afraid to expand your area. I was hyper-focused on this little 0.8 square mile area where I was a cop, and that made me miss who knows how many deals that I could have found in other areas. So sometimes you have to expand your criteria, expand your market a little bit to find the right deal. Number 7 is similar vein. doing a deal in general is more important than the deal you do. Okay. Doing this deal has led me to my next 10 deals. Without it, I couldn't have done any of the things that I've accomplished in the last 5-6 years as an investor. So even though this deal did turn out well for me, and that's not always the case for a first time rental property investor, the experience I gained was so much more valuable than the income and the wealth I generated from one deal. Number 8 is real estate is get wealthy slow. So as you can see, and hopefully I demonstrated well, that over time, I was able to increase the income, increase the revenue of this property. That first couple years, I was, again, cash flowing like $400 a month, which is great. That's a win for sure, but that's not going to change your life. But every year for the rest of the time I am alive or that I own this property, this will become more profitable. I will increase my equity, I will increase my tax savings, and I will increase my cash flow. And as you can see, if you compound this over multiple properties, then it snowballs into a massive compounding effect. And again, as I just mentioned, this was my first BRRRR deal. I made a ton of mistakes that I wouldn't make today, but as you can see, even with this being my first deal, not really knowing what I was doing, the compound effect of this income over time and the experience gained from doing the deal made it absolutely worth it in the end. Thank you so much if you're able to stick through this whole video. I hope this was interesting. I hope you guys enjoyed me doing a little bit different type of video with a deal breakdown and giving some really nuanced, in-depth information on this specific deal. If this is something you enjoyed, please leave a like, leave a comment, ask any questions. I'm happy to make comment responses or video responses to you. Again, I'm Joe Cornwell, owner of Realty One Stop, based in Cincinnati, Ohio. There's a link here if you are interested. I am going to put the link in the video notes if you want to check it out. And of course, like, subscribe, and follow us on all of our social media channels. If you want to reach out or have questions about real estate agent business, construction business, feel free to shoot me an email. I love to chat and I love to give back and help out. Again, thank you guys so much for watching the Realty One Stop YouTube channel. Can't wait to see you next time.